Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. One of the key issues I see when people are creating games in Unreal is either a lack of loading screens or a really poor attempt at a loading screen. So as you can see, I have a game here and I have a trigger right here that takes me to a new level. It just basically reloads the same level. But if I go into it, you can see the game freezes, it looks terrible, it takes a while to load. As your game gets bigger, that freeze is going to get longer and longer and longer. It's not fantastic. One of the common things you'll see is people will go into everywhere you open a level. So here, they will show a widget just before you open a level to show the loading symbol or whatever, and then it'll load the level. More often than not, the show loading part won't work, so you'll see them append a delay shortly after it just to give it a few frames to be able to create itself on screen. Some of the tutorials even put an animated loading screen in, but as soon as the open level's called, it just freezes and then you have to wait. They're not very good. So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a proper loading screen. Like you see on screen now, it has your tip text at the bottom. It is completely animated from the start of open level all the way to when the level is fully loaded, where it's literally just changing screen. And then it's got the dynamic backgrounds on the back, which change every time you call loading. And as a bonus, we're also going to take a look at intro screens as well, so you can whack your awesome intro at the beginning of your game. So let's get started. So in order to create a proper loading screen, the first thing you're going to need is, well, multiple levels. So all I've done is I have this level trigger here that basically implements my event interact and then calls open level, but I've just kind of ignored that and added a trigger. So when my character hits it, it just calls open level. And all I've done is added the level to a variable, and then back in my world, I've just set it to the same level. So if I hit that trigger, it just reopens the same level. It's that simple. So once we have that, you should be able to walk into it and then it will respawn the level. Dead easy. So the next thing you need in order to do a proper loading screen is you need to be able to learn C++, so we can implement the logic into C++ to make the loading screen render on a different thread. Because if we render it on the game thread, it will just freeze when the game's changing levels. So we're going to go back 2 years and learn C++. No, we're not. I'm joking. We're not going to go and do that. There is a free plugin on the Epic Marketplace called Async Loading Screen. It's completely free and it does all the heavy lifting of C++ for you to give you completely animated loading screens. Now, you're not going to get an interactive loading screen like you would with something like Skyrim, where you can rotate the models or something like that. This isn't going to give you that. This is going to give you your bog standard. Here's some text, here's a spinning loading screen and a background image. You can add a movie instead of the background image if you want, so you could have like a small transition to the left kind of thing, or some smoke fading in, fires, whatever, but you're not going to get an interactive loading screen. That's the key difference here. If you want the interactive loading screen, you're going to need to find another plugin or look into the C++ side. But for this sake, we need to download this plugin. I've tested it on Windows and Linux, no problems at all. Like, the plugin claims it works on everything, so yes. So sign up, download that, and then add it to your project. Once you've done that, if you go up to edit and plugins just to make sure it's added in, you can see I have async loading screen enabled here. Now the documentation for this is very, very good. You can just read it all down. I didn't spot any issues with it, and they show you all the different types of loading screens. I believe they even give you a couple of examples in this tutorials, but we're going to run through how I made my custom one. So in order to actually use this loading screen, let's start with the opening movies to when your game loads. So the opening movies are the ones you see on screen now, where it says the Unreal Engine. If you want that, I think you need to get a license for it, but it's fine. And then your company logos, any other logos you've used as well. So what you need to do is, if I come into my content folder here, you can see I have a movies directory here. You need to create this with a capital M, just like so. So movies. This is inside the content folder. Now it looks like I've got nothing here, but I do actually have files in here, which is these two here. I have the freely available Unreal fade-in logo, and then I have my custom intro here for my channel. So you just need to put these two in here. MP4s are preferred. I don't know if it works with anything else, but the documentation highly suggests MP4s. And just make sure it's not got any dodgy characters in it, otherwise it won't work. Don't worry about Unreal and not importing it. That's completely fine. And now, in order to start using the plugin, let's go to Edit and Project Settings. And now normally, if you've got an intro movie, you'll have added it into the movies here. The Async Loading Screen plugin disables this functionality and takes over it. So if you have it in here, it's not going to work anymore. So in order to add the startup movies now, if you go into your Async Loading Screen under game, you can see we now have a lot of settings here, which is how we control which loading screens we want. So if I come into my startup loading screen here, so this is the one I customize when I'm wanting to change the startup sequence. Now you can have a loading screen if you want, you don't need to have intro movies, but equally you can as well. Going down all the settings, I'm not going to read out every single one of them because some of them you don't really need to know anyway. But in order to recreate the loading screen I had, I'm going to come in and untick autocomplete when loading completes. Because what this is going to do is when your game map has loaded, it will autocomplete this and skip them all. Since I'm using this as an intro movie, I don't want that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure the movies are skippable, because if you come into a game, you've already played it multiple times, you don't want to sit watching the movies again, you want to be able to click through them. And this will allow you to just tap the mouse button to skip it. Really, really nice. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come down to the movie paths here, and I'm going to add an iteration to it. Now you can see it's just wanting some text. I don't know why they've not let you select it. Maybe it's because it doesn't import into Unreal properly. But all you need to do is put the exact name of your movie in. So you'll see if I come to my content browser and I'll just open this up in my file manager. So all they're looking for is you to put the exact name of this without the extension. So if I copy this and paste it in here, there is my movie path. If you put .mp4, it's not going to work because it'll append .mp4 later. So you just need the exact path. You don't need to put /content/movies. If you've got it in a subfolder, say intros, you can do that, but you just need the movie name like so. And I'm going to add both of my movie names in like so. Now you have the option to shuffle this if you want them to be randomly organized and then play, but as it stands, the movie pass will play every single one and then shuffle will just randomize them, which I don't want them randomized. I'm going to put them in the order that I want them. So that's completely fine. And then if you want anything else adding, like maybe you want a spinner on your intro movies or a custom background, you can add all of that. But for me, that's completely fine. I don't need any of that. Now you'll notice that when you start the game, this isn't going to work. And this is a key thing about the loading screen. Most of it doesn't work in the editor when you're playing it. You've got two options. You can come up to the top bar and click the three dots and click standalone game, and that will open up a new window, build Unreal. It'll act like it's compiled the game for you. Now this does work, and that will show you the intro moves and everything. Although in my current game with my current setup, you take a hit at the start, but then it's already cooked and it works really fast. So I'm just going to come up and package the project, and I'll click open here. And then it's good practice to package a project often anyway, because you shouldn't be doing it right at the end. And then after a while, it will package. And then now, as you can see on screen, there is my intro screens nice and up. And I can also click through them to skip through them, and it takes me to my main menu. Awesome. So that's the first part of the loading screens. We now have an intro screen. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to look at is adding the background image of the loading screen, because at the moment we walk up, it freezes. It's not fantastic. So I'm going to close down the startup loading screen, and I'm going to come into the default loading screen. So the plugin comes with 4 or 5 layouts you can pick from. You can customize them as much as you want. The first one is, which you'll see mostly, is classic, which is what most people do. The next is center, where your spinner is in the middle, then letterbox, where it's at the top and bottom, and then sidebar, and then dual sidebar. You can customize these any way you want. Now on my current version, I don't know why, but the classic layout just seems broken. It doesn't work great at all. Glitches out, it doesn't show the icons half the time. I have got the latest version from their GitHub, so chances are it's probably a bug. So you'll have to try out all of them, but if you do experience any major issues, just try switching your layouts and see if it helps. But what I'm going to go for is the classic layout, but I'm going to use the center layout and then just move this throbber down to the bottom and do what I need, and just recreating it to get around the bug. So I'm going to come and set my minimum loading screen display time to 10, and what this does is basically overwrite when the game loads. So this is good to say, load the game, and if you've not hit 10 seconds yet, wait 10 seconds, just so they actually have a loading screen. Because if your game's quite small, when you change levels and you're trying to debug it, you're never going to see it. It's going to be on and off so quickly. So 10 seconds or 20, anything you want, just so you've got a hard-coded minimum time your screen must show for. Next, I don't want it to auto-complete when loading commences, because otherwise that's going to overwrite my display time at the top. But typically, you will probably want this clicked, so as soon as the game's loaded, bang, it'll jump straight in. I don't want the loading screen to be skippable, because that doesn't make any sense, so I'm going to untick that. And next, you can see we're going to ignore the movie paths, and we're going to actually just tick shuffle, because I want it to shuffle between the loading elements I give it. And then we need to make sure show widget overlay is ticked. If this isn't ticked, it's not going to show any of the loading screen data below we're about to put in. So you'll notice on the startup screen, this is actually unticked because we're not using anything. So down here, you'll have your options of loading complete text, and this is what shows up saying loading is complete. I'm not going to use this, so I don't need it, but feel free to play around with it. So I'm going to come straight into the background here. So inside this background section, these are going to be the images you actually want to show. So you can see on the hover, it also says if you haven't got a show widget overlay, it's not going to work. So we have a show widget overlay, so this is going to work. And in here is where you bulk add the images you want to show on your loading screen. So I hired a custom Fiverr artist called Alza Design Art. Sorry if I've butchered your name. It's not sponsored. He just did great work when I paid him. So as you can see, he's got all my loading screens there of all the different characters in the game. So we have Glenn, the shopkeeper. We have the main player. We have the Nakamura twins, and we have Lily. I just love the artwork, how they've actually took the Polygon characters and they've into actual characters, bully style, which I thought was just pretty epic. And my personal favourite, I'm torn between Glenn and the player because they're both very, very cool. So what I did was I got these artwork and I included the source of one of them so I could expand it a little bit. And that's basically given us the loading screens here. So as you can see, I have my loading screens. I've expanded it. I've basically made it the size of my monitor, or the maximum size I think people will probably play my game, which is going to be 1440p, so 2560 by 1440p. That's the size of my loading screen. And you can see I've purposely left some gap at the bottom because that's where I want my Throbber. And yes, it is called a Throbber. We'll get to that later. And the tip text down here. And I've done the exact same with all of the templates like so. So you can really put these anywhere you want. You can put it in a gallery folder, anywhere you want. I've just created one called loading screens and I've dumped them in here like so. So all we're going to do is come up to the project settings, back into our async loading screen, and inside the backgrounds, I'm just going to drag these in like so. There we are. Next, I'm going to set the image stretch to fill, so it just fills the entire screen because I've already set it to 1440p. It should work, and I really don't need to change any other options on mine. You can come in, you can change the padding, so you can scrunch it down, you could add a background color if you want. I don't need any of that because my loading screen images take care of themselves. So you can see now if I compile, and as you see on screen, we have a proper loading screen. Unfortunately, it's just static. It doesn't really do anything. So we need to add functionality. But we're already ahead of the curve. You will have noticed that we've not had to come into Unreal and modify anything. We've not had to come into the level trigger and say on the open level, show loading screen, don't show loading screen. The plugin takes care of all of that. It takes over when you call open level and it shows the loading screen and then continues on. How cool is that? So let's get on to actually showing some cool stuff. Let's start with the tip text. So this is where we need to start working with the templates of it. So we've added the background in order to show it, but we need to actually set which layout it's using because at the moment it doesn't really matter. They're all just showing a background. So as I said at the start, this classic for me is broken at the moment. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, feel free to switch, but I'm going to change mine over to center like so. So all I'm going to do is come down to the layout now that I've done that and open up the center one, and we can change some of the options in here. So because I'm using the center layout, based on the screenshot you saw earlier, the tip text is at the bottom, so it's wrapped in a parent. So I'm going to set it horizontally and vertically just in the center, so it's across the bottom here. And I'm really just going to leave everything else alone except the bottom padding here. I'm going to set this to 80 just so it's up from the floor more, so it's more in line of the middle of the screen. Otherwise it'll be across the very bottom of it, which is not what we want. And that's all the changes I'm going to make. But going down all of here, you can choose whether the tip is at the bottom or the top of the screen. You can choose which alignment it is, so do you want it left aligned, right aligned, whatever you want. You can choose how the border actually sits. You can add some color to it if you want. There's loads of settings you can tweak, and because it's completely open source, you can also go and modify the C++ and add your own as well. My only criticism with this plugin is for the artists, it would be nice if they didn't have to come in and fill all these settings in. A simple blueprint widget would be very nice, but this is what we've got for free. It's still fantastic. So now that we have this, let's go and set our tip settings. So back in the default loading screen, you have this tip widget here. And this basically lets you come and add in loads of text that you want. And I'm just going to come in and bulk add a bunch of text here. There we are. So I've added a bunch of tip text here now, all random stuff that the game might consider useful. If you want text that unlock over the progression of your game, you can't really do this with this. You'll need to find another way of doing that. But you do have another option of set display tip manually, which if you hover over it, if you want to show a certain tip at certain times, you can do that. you just need to call the set display tip index, which is setting the array item here, and it will only show that one. Otherwise, it will just shuffle between them. So now that we've added all my tip text, I'm going to come up and open the appearance. I'm going to keep mine white. I am not going to change any of the font or anything like that, but what I am going to do is change the outline. So I'm going to change this to a 2, and I'm going to set the outline color to be black, just so it's white and it's got a black outline of it. And then for me, it wraps just a little bit too early, so I'm going to change the wrap at 1500 just so it's a little bit longer. So that's really all I'm going to do. So now you can see if I build and compile again, or if I simulate the game, you can see as we run up to the level transition here, you can see we now have tips. Awesome. And you can see since the game was loaded back in, if I run back in again, I get a different tip. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? We now have a loading screen with tips showing. Still, this is something you can do with a widget and a delay. It's not fantastic. Let's start animating it. So as I said earlier, the Throbber, which is a weird sound, is the name of the loading spinners that you commonly see. Now, I've got a custom Throbber that I've made, as you saw on the intro, where I've basically took my logo and then stuck it on a cylinder like a coin and span it. And all I've done in Blender is I've come and grabbed a cylinder, I've compressed it down, I've chamfered the edges, which you can't really tell, but it actually does change it compared to a normal spinning one. It's just round of the edges, just that little bit, just to make it look a bit nicer. And then I stuck my logo on it, and on the UV editing, I basically put my logo so it's only in the middle like that. You can see it wraps the D down here. I'm not the greatest texture or UV artist, but for me, it works really well. Then all I did was enable the 3-point lighting plugin built into Blender, because I don't need any specific type of lighting. I need it to be static, fixed lighting. So if I went to edit plugins in Blender, and I just added the try lighting option here. Then I did Shift A, light, and 3-point lights. Added my camera. Then I sat playing with the animation, and I determined 60 frames is all I want. And then you can see over the course of it, it'll just spin like so. And you'll notice that to achieve this, all I did was change the curve. So I selected both my keyframes, I right-clicked, interpolation mode, and I chose linear, which basically means it doesn't accelerate up and then accelerate back down again, like you see mostly. It's just one constant smooth spin line. Then finally, I came up to my render settings, and I made sure I exported it as a PNG, and then I went render animation. And what this basically did was spat out a bunch of images which I've stuck in my loading screen spinner like so, which is each individual frame. And you guessed it, we do indeed have 60 frames because I set it to 60 keyframes. And you can see as you look across, it's my loading spinner. And because it's seamless, it starts and ends at the same spot, it works really, really nicely. So let's add this into our loading screen. So inside the loading widget, you get to pick which type of spinner you want. So the Throbber is the one that you see on most websites where it spins sideways. The circular Throbber, I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but I'm going to come and pick image sequence because that's the one I want. I don't need to worry about. So coming down here, we come to the translation settings, and this is the key part where I'm overwriting the center's layout in order to place it where I need to. You might not need to do this, but this is how I achieved the same look as the classic, but getting around the bug. So all of my spinners here are actually set to 1920 by 1080. It's a big image, but it's transparent. The loading screen spinner is actually very well detailed and possibly doesn't even need to be that detailed, but that's what I've rolled with for now. So I need to actually scale that down because otherwise it's going to render it on top and it'll just have a giant spinner in the middle of the screen. You won't be able to see your background, it'll just look terrible. So I'm going to come and set the scale to be 0.15, so it's 10th almost of what the size is, and that's what gives me my nice small loading screen. But at the moment it's still in the middle of the page and we don't want that. So I'm going to come and set the translation, which is pre-numbers I already know, of 300 by 150. So that'll move it 300 across and 150 down, which will roughly put it in the bottom right where I need it to. The pivot I'm also going to set to 1 and 1 because all this does is move from the center down to the bottom corner, and then when I do 300 to 150 it's in the bottom corner here. If it's in the center, it'll be hanging off the screen, which is not what we need. Now I don't need any loading text because I'm not using it, so I'm going to get rid of it, and I'm going to untick the 2 bits here for the loading text because it doesn't really matter. Now the appearance we don't need to change because we're not using the loading text, so I can get rid of that. And then this is where you can come and ignore the two Throbber and circular Throbber settings because we've not set them. So I can come straight into image sequence. So all I need to do is drop in 60 images here. So a little tip for you, if you just drag it off to the side, I can control space to open this up. I can select all of them and just drag them all into here like so. And it'll go boom, 60 array element. And it's now populated all 60 images like so. And now it's not going to shuffle the image sequence because otherwise your flip chart would look really, really odd, your sprite sheet. So we're going to ignore that. The scale and the interval I'm going to keep the same, but you might want to change the interval to make your animation play as smoothly as you want. I find 0.05 works really well for me. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much all I've done for the loading screen. So you can see now, if I load it up, we have our intro screens. Perfect. When we get to a loading screen, you can see it loads. We've got an animated spinner at the bottom right, we have the text, and we have the background. And each time we walk into it, it all completely changes. How cool is that? It's fully animated loading screen. Now you can come back in and you can set movies on the loading screens if you want a transition over something, or you can do anything you want and it'll look really cool and everything will work really nicely. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen. There is a proper loading screen in Unreal Engine. None of this freezing one where you just show some static image and that's it, you can't do anything else. We have an anime all the way through loading the map right until it's about to switch off and then boom, it's done. Instant. There we go. And there's plenty more to the plugin. You can add so much to it. You can also go and customize it however you want. Have you got any suggestions, ladies and gentlemen? How would you create your loading screens? If you've already created one, show me below. If you've gone into the C++ and modded it, let me know below because it'll be cool to see. Thank you for watching. My name is Decryption and I will see you next time.